right, welcome into the show. We have some breaking news coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, and this is the news that we've been waiting for. A major Jalen Hurts injury update going into Packers-Eagles in the wild card round at the link on Sunday. Before we get to that and a whole lot more, continue to hang out here with us. A programming reminder. Tune in, fam. Packers-Eagles watch party coming your way right here on the channel on Sunday. And we're going to go live for an extended pregame show. Our coverage will begin an hour and a half before kickoff. Easy math. That's a 90-minute pregame show. So we'll see you at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific out there on the West Coast. And no matter where you are or how you join us, we always appreciate you for making our show a part of your day. And also, we're closing in on 98,000 subscribers. I've been saying this all week. We've been talking about this all year. My goal this season is to get Eagles Now to 100,000 subs. Once we get there, we're having a party here on the show. We're going to get that silver plaque from YouTube, and I want to get there ASAP. 246 subs away from that Jaylen Carter number. So if you want informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking Eagles coverage every single day year-round, live shows, watch parties, whole lot more, lock us in and hit that sub button right now. As for the most recent Jalen Hurts injury update, Nick Sirianni met with the media today on this Wednesday, January 8th, and he said that Hurts will return to practice today. This will mark the first time that Hurts hits the practice field since suffering that concussion in Week 16 on December 22nd. This, as we've been talking about all week long, is a huge step when factoring in Hurts' chances of playing in this game to kick off the playoffs against the Packers in South Philadelphia on Sunday. And this was really the barometer day to see if Hurts would be limited, if he'd be on the practice field, because if he were not to practice today, then our concerns would grow a little bit. But the Eagles couldn't update his injury status until Wednesday because this is the first practice of the week. Should there be any concerns about rust? Of course, that is a big conversation pertaining to the Hurts injury situation. It's a viable question, no doubt about it. But Hurts has dealt with something like this before. The Eagles have faced a similar situation to this before, and it happened when the Eagles were the number one seed in the NFC back in 2022, and a very similar scenario to what we're seeing right now. Back in 2022, Hurts at Soldier Field against the Bears injured his shoulder in Week 15 against Chicago. In that game, still stayed in, but hurt that shoulder, dealt with it, battled through it. He was 22 at 37, 315 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, albeit in an Eagles win. He then, because of that shoulder injury, missed Week 16, missed Week 17. Week 16 was a 40-34 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. The following week, a really listless loss, 20-10. To the New Orleans Saints. Gardner Minshew started both of those games. And then Hurts came back in Week 18 against the Giants. He went 20 at 35, 229 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Then the Eagles got that number one seed. They had the first round bye. That was another week for Hurts to rest his shoulder. But remember the conversations that we were having back then? Hurts even admitted going into the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, that his shoulder was still bothering him for a long while. I'm not going to say a concussion is not as big of a deal as a shoulder, but it kind of is, right? Like concussions are big deals because it's a head injury. But you'd almost rather have a concussion that you can get through as compared to a shoulder injury because the shoulder injury impacts your ability to throw the ball. And when Hurts came back against the Giants in the playoffs after the bye, played a really good game. And that game was pretty much over a quarter and a half in as Philadelphia beat the brakes off the Giants at home. Hurts in that ball game won 16-24, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks through the air, and a rushing touchdown as well. Here's what Sirianni had to say about the rust factor, and I like what he had to say here. This is why you practice. This is why you go through the process of practicing and all the things that you do in practice to get on the same page, to do everything here. We feel like we practice at a very high intensity level, and this is why you go out there and you do these things. Of note, and I do think this is important as well, the Eagles on this Wednesday are practicing with pads on. We'll see how Hurts responds after practice. That too will go a long way in determining his availability for this Sunday game. And the Eagles are practicing at the link. Familiar surroundings. You're going to be inside the stadium that you play in on Sunday, and the practice fields at the NovaCare Complex, Nick Sirianni said, are somewhat frozen. what Hurts brings this offense. It was great to see Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee ball out in back-to-back wins over division rivals in Dallas and New York. But those quarterbacks are not Jalen Hurts. And Hurts has one of the top deep balls among all quarterbacks in the NFL. He makes the run game more dangerous and less predictable because teams cannot load up the line of scrimmage against him and Saquon Barkley because they have to account for the running threat that Jalen Hurts possesses. He can turn garbage into gold with his legs. And what I mean by that, if there's nothing there, pocket gets muddied up, pocket starts to break down. He can create with his legs and hand the defense a back-breaking play. Most importantly, dude wins. High school, college, Alabama, Oklahoma, with Philadelphia, 46-20 in his career. It was also good this year to see him flush a bad 2023 and play mistake-free football for the most part. First few weeks of the year, he was turning it over at an alarming rate. Then he ended the year with 18 touchdowns through the air and 5 picks. On the season, he accounted for 32 total touchdowns and 5 interceptions. With that, only starting to take flight here on today's show. Yeah, play on words. It's Eagles Now. What do you think? Predict the score. Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles. Get those predictions in down in the comment section right now. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Game Time. Growing up in the Philadelphia area, I had the luxury to grow up at Veterans Stadium and Lincoln Financial Field and be a part of some playoff atmospheres. My fondest memory as an Eagles fan, as far as a game that I went to, the 2004 NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons, and to be a part of the fan experience at that game on a cold, snowy day in January to see the Eagles punch their ticket to the Super Bowl, it was incredible. If you want to experience that environment as well, download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can easily resell tickets on your phone. And I just love the user interface and user experience because I love to see the price point and the vantage point from your seats. Game Time Picks is a great feature. Curation makes it easier to sort through thousands of tickets to find the best deal for you and the best seats for you. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. What time is it? Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our sponsor, and we'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the show notes of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we move forward on today's show on this beautiful Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Jaylen Carter, Saquon Barkley, named all pros by their peers, meaning players across the National Football League. This coming in the 3rd annual NFL Players Association All-Pro vote. And these are potential AP All-Pros. These are the All-Pro selections that actually matter, that go down on a individual player's resume. I think Saquon's definitely going to be an All-Pro. Jalen Carter has a chance. Lane Johnson for sure. Jordan Mailata was not named to the Pro Bowl. Doesn't matter. I think he's going to be named an All-Pro, highest graded offensive player in the league. Cam Jurgens is a Pro Bowler, so has an opportunity to be an All-Pro this season in replacing Jason Kelce. What a story that's been. Zach Bond's been the best linebacker that the Eagles have had in quite some time, and maybe the best off-ball linebacker in the league. Cooper DeJean out of the slot has an opportunity to be named an All-Pro as well. And A.J. Brown was not named a Pro Bowler. I thought he should have gotten it over Terry McLaurin, but he put up great production, even though he missed a couple of games. As for Saquon here in 2024 for the NFLPA All-Pro selections, phenomenal. The best season that a running back has had in the history of this organization. 345 carries, 2,005 yards, 5.8 yards per tote, 125.3 yards per game, and 15 total touchdowns. 13 through the air, 2 in the pass game on wheel routes. Carries led the league. Yards led the league. Rushing yards per game at 125.3, also leading the NFL. In the process, he also became the 9th player to rush for 2,000 or more yards in a single season. That joins O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Jamal Lewis, Chris Johnson, Adrian Peterson, and Derrick Henry. What a special season. Thank you, New York Giants. Jalen Carter. I don't think that the numbers really do him justice, and I'll spend some more time on that talking point here coming up, but he is just a dominant player, and when you just watch 98 lined up at defensive tackle, or when you watch film, you see him take over games and make his impact be felt, known, and seen without him registering a statistic. And the analytical numbers back that up to a certain degree. Among defensive tackles, overall PFF grade of 74.1, 22nd at that defensive tackle spot, a pass rush grade of 81.5, that was 7th. He had 36 hurries, that too was top 10 at 9. He had 12 quarterback hits, 8th. Pressures, 53, that was 9th. And if he would have played the final game against New York, going into that game, he was 1 or 2 in the most snaps registered at that defensive tackle spot. He did finish 5th, so a little bit of a workhorse, and we talked about this in the lead up to the season. One thing that he really wanted to work on this year was his stamina. He felt as though he wore down at the end of last year. Easy to see why. You play fewer games in college. He did that at Georgia. Then he was in the college football playoff. You go right into the combine. You do your pre-draft visits. You go right into the NFL draft. And then it's rookie minicamp, OTAs, and training camp. So it's a real whirlwind, I should say, for rookies. And Carter fared very well last year. He looked the part, but then he wore down late in the year. That was not a problem this year, and that's a credit to the player. So the stats don't always do him justice because he is a dominant player, and this is why teams have really started to prioritize an interior pass rush and bulldogs from the interior. You think of Jaylen Carter now in the same conversation as an Aaron Donald in years prior, or a Chris Jones, a player who can dominate, muddy up the pocket, blur the sight line for the quarterback, take over games against the pass and against the run. If you're still watching the show, hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you're still hanging out, that means that you watched until the end, and that means that you're a real one, so type real one down in the chat. Thanks for rocking with us, and don't forget to hit that sub button.